Everybody, welcome back to another Adobe Live. I am your host, Jesús Ramirez, and I'm actually also the guest, host and guest. Thank you so much for joining us here on this holiday stream. This is the last one of the day, so we're super excited to get started. We're going to talk about Photoshop, compositing in Photoshop. But before we get to it, let me just take a quick look at the chat and see if I recognize any names in the chat. So just say hello. I see Axel. Thank you so much for joining. Axel, Idara, Becca, thank you so much. Robert. I'm also going to look at the YouTube chat. So I got Behance and YouTube going on here. So make sure you say hello on either of the application of the websites, Behance or YouTube. Yeah, so what is this stream about? This stream is going to be all about Photoshop and compositing. So let me just jump over to my screen so you can see a project that I've been working on that I'm really proud of and happy with. This is the Heart Project, that is run by my good friend Karen Alsop, and this is the Christmas Wish 2024. What is the Christmas Wish? Well, Karen Alsop, as I mentioned, is the organizer of this organization. And what she does is she sends photographers to different hospitals in several countries, and they photograph children who are sick now during the holidays. And then we take those photos and then we create beautiful composites for the families and for the children. For some of these children, this may be their last Christmas. So it's a way of giving back and, just create something beautiful for the family. So the photographers take the photos, several artists, including myself, will generate a composite based on the things that they like. So I'm going to fast forward this to the one that I worked on this year, which is a little girl named Macy. This is Macy. And as you can see, Santa's playing the guitar. And they're big fans of Johnny Cash. They were listening to Johnny Cash while they were shooting the photos. And basically, they got that photo that you see there. And then I created a concert scene from the photo that they submitted, and I added Johnny Cash and the elves in the foreground watching the concert. I worked on this project several other times. This is my Behance page, by the way. If you go to behance.net/JR from PTC, you can see all my work. And if you scroll down, you'll see the Heart Project 2022. And this is Grace, and this is the final image. But as you can see, this is Grace here with Santa. Santa was wearing a mask. So I had to do all this compositing to create this this final image that the family got printed and framed, and they always send really nice messages. But anyway, I use Adobe stock in most of these projects. On the newest one, the one that I just did with Macy, I use a lot of Generative Fill. So this is what this session is going to be all about: how to create beautiful Christmas composites. And we're going to use Adobe stock, Generative Fill, and we'll see what else. So in the comments, if you want to add a reindeer or whatever you want me to add to the compositing ideas that you have, let me know, and I might be able to include that into the final image. So let me go ahead and bring up Photoshop. Just to let you guys know, I'm going to be using the latest Photoshop beta just because there's a couple features in there that I want to talk about. They're brand new as of last week. So I figured that it will be good to discuss. In case you're wondering, I'm running Photoshop 26.3.0. So that is the latest beta as of today. And that includes the feature that I'm going to talk about in just a moment. Awesome. I just see a lot of comments so far. Thank you, everybody, for commenting. Oliver, Z by HB, thank you so much. Yeah, you appreciate all the comments. Thank you, Debbie. That is a very beautiful thing for the families. Absolutely. Thank you for that. Okay, so this is the canvas that we're going to start with, and I'm just going to start with a background image. Since the project that I worked on this year for Macy included a concert, I figured we would keep the concert theme, and we would create a Christmas concert composite. So what I'm going to do now is just use a stock image that I have here. That I got this from stock.adobe.com. If you're not familiar with it, I highly recommend that you get acquainted with it. Adobe Stock is where I download a lot of the images that I use for all my composites, including some of the TV and movie posters that I work on. Now, I'm going to show you Adobe Stock in just a second, but something just happened on my screen, and I wanted to let you know why that's happening. Excuse me. Wow. So why is this happening? When you click and drag, you see how I'm bouncing the image around? That doesn't happen by default. You have to enable that, and I prefer this method of working. If you press Control K, Command K on the Mac to bring up the preferences panel and go to um, tools, you can see that I've enabled overscroll. Overscroll is disabled by default. So what does that mean? It means that when you have the hand tool active, you can't pan. You can only pan when you zoom in, and then you can move the image around. But if you are able to see the entire image, you won't be able to pan and move it around. I prefer to move the around the image as much as I want, almost like if it were a real piece of paper, you know, like on a desk, you can just move it anywhere you want. I prefer that. So I'm going to go into tools, check overscroll, and you have to enable this. Again, this is off by default. I'll press OK, and now I can bounce around the image. So that's the way I prefer working. Feel free to enable that if you want. Yeah, a glass of water for me for sure. um, I actually do have a little can of water here. This is sparkly water, black sherry. Um, anyway, so Adobe Stock. In case you don't know what Adobe Stock is, let me bring up the website, stock.adobe.com. Stock.adobe.com, and this allows you to find images. I recommend clicking on this dropdown and searching for free images. You don't have to pay anything. All you need is a free Adobe ID, and you can search for example, Santa or whatever it is that you're looking for, and then you have all these images you can download for free. And that includes not just photos, that also includes videos, templates, and 3D objects. 3D objects is not labeled here because there's no free 3D objects that include Santa. But if I just type something like camera, I think there is a free 3D object that's a camera. There you go, 3D. I'll click on 3D, and you can download a free 3D asset to use in one of the Adobe 3D applications or any 3D applications. These are OBJ files, which could be opened by pretty much every 3D application out there. So anyway, so Adobe Stock, this is where I got the image for this background. And this background is just a Christmas stage. And I'm just going to place it into position right about here. And I'm going to show you how I work. Those composites that I just showed you a moment ago, they took like, 14 to 20 hours, depending on the composite. We're going to try to do everything in under an hour. So I'm going to go fast, but I'm just going to show you, obviously, I'm not going to be able to work on the details. That's really what takes more time. So I'm just going to give you like a general overview and then just spend more time fine tuning like the tiny, tiny details. So that's really where the magic happens. But unfortunately, we don't have 14 hours on this stream. Cool. So what do we do next? I have another image that I downloaded earlier, and it is of this little boy here. And usually when you, what I recommend you do when you're working with Adobe Stock is that if you find an image, I'm just going to type in, like I'll do the same thing I did earlier, Santa and free. Sometimes you may not, actually, you could also do videos, by the way. So sometimes you will be unsure if the image will work for your composite. So what you can do is click on the little heart icon. It saves to your library. You see how it says here, save to library. So when it saves to your library, it appears here after it downloads. And you can see this download icon. It's going to appear in just a moment. And there it is. There's a Santa riding the motorcycle. You can see this little shopping cart icon. That means that the image hasn't been licensed. This is beneficial because if this were a paid asset, I wouldn't want to pay for it if I didn't think it was going to work. So what I can do is I can bring in the image and then maybe, remove the background and then see if this is going to work for my composite. And once I know that it's going to work, I can then license it to get the high resolution version without the watermark. So I can right click on the image and choose license image right here. License image. This window comes up and it's going to tell me if I want to use one of my 48 licenses. And in this case, I do want to do that. I'm going to confirm it. And then this will download the full resolution version of this image to my computer, and I can now work with it. So I'm going to delete the layer mask, and I'm going to show you another feature. So this is brand new. This is what I was talking about earlier. If you press the W key, you will go into the tools under the object selection tool. At the moment, I have the quick selection tool active. As you can see, this is what this little square indicates. But if I keep pressing the W key, nothing happens. I want to go to the object selection tool, which is at the top of the tool stack. If you want to toggle between the tools in a stack, you hold the Shift key and then the corresponding keyboard shortcut for that tool. So in this case, the W key. So Shift and then tap W, and you see how now I can toggle between all the tools, and I can go into the quick selection tool, which is what I want, the object selection tool, which is what I want to show you. Also, if you press Control K, Command K on the Mac, under tools, there's an option here that you can uncheck this to use the shift key for tool switch. So if you don't want to hold the shift key and then just, keep tapping on that same keyboard shortcut to toggle between the tools, you can do so. So I'll press OK. And now when I press W without holding the shift key, I toggle between the tools. Completely up to you on how do you want Photoshop to behave. I prefer using the shift key just because that's what I remember. But, completely up to you. You have the option. Anyway, so what is new in this latest version of the Photoshop beta? Under the object selection tool, we now have this select people button that gives you this icon, this thumbnail of the people at the text and their attributes. So I'm going to click on that and notice that I can select the entire person or click on show more to show all of the person's attributes. And I'm going to move over so you can see. And when I hover over the attributes, they highlight over the image. So this allows you to make selections very, very fast. And you can click on multiple attributes and then click on apply to create a selection based on the attributes that it selected. So it's a really, really powerful tool. You can also hover over the image and click, hold shift and click on a second area and hold shift again to keep adding to the selection. So in this case, I'm just gonna deselect, click on select people, click on the little boy, and then click on entire person and apply. And this will create a selection around the entire person. Now, I want you to notice one thing. You see the selection here? Notice how it didn't select the pillow in between his legs, right? If I make a layer mask, this is what I get. This technology is better than just simply clicking on the remove background button, because when I click on remove background button, the pillow remains. See how much of the pillow remains? So the technology is a little bit better for finding edges on people using this new tool. So I highly recommend that you use it. So make a selection and then click on the layer mask icon to create a mask. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat. I don't see any. Cool. Hey, Jacob, good to see you. How's it going, my friend? Awesome. So this is going to be the little boy in this concert. And then we're also going to get Santa in here. I have this image of Santa playing the guitar. I am going to keep it. So I'm just going to click now on the shopping cart icon to license the image. I'll click on confirm so I can download the full resolution version. You'll notice that the Adobe stock watermark will disappear in just a moment. And then we can start working with this once the full version is downloaded. And now it's downloaded. There it is. I'm gonna just save, and because I don't want the computer to crash and for me to lose all this work. So I'm just saving as I go. Control S to save on Windows, Command S to save on the Mac. I'm sure everybody knows that keyboard shortcut. I'll do the same thing for this image. I'm gonna go into the object selection tool, select people. Oh wow, it hasn't found anybody yet. It doesn't want to recognize Santa for some reason. Well, if it doesn't recognize Santa, that's okay. I'll just click on remove background, and there we go. There it is. It removes the background. What I'm going to do now is press Control T to transform, and I'll click on this icon to flip the image horizontally. I think it looks better if Santa's facing that way. And then I can transform it, Control T, and then scale it accordingly so that it fits within my scene. So I'm trying to look at the perspective. And basically the way that I'm thinking about this is I'm not going to bother following the converging lines in my background, which is probably what you should do, right? You should probably just see where the vanishing point is, which is right about here. And then that means the horizon line is there. So that kind of helps my head figure out how everything in the scene should be laid out. And even though we don't have converging lines in this image, I can kind of imagine like where was the camera in terms of eye level, the eye level of the camera when the photo was shot. Clearly the camera was not low to the ground. It was not super high up above his head. The camera was probably, just by looking at it, my guesstimate is like around this area in terms of height. So that's more or less where the horizon line will be for his body. So, I can just kind of place him like right about there and then maybe scale him down, and he kind of looks like he's in perspective, and it fits. With the little boy, we do have a little more information. If we follow the parallel converging lines of the couch, you can, get a good estimate of more or less where the converging lines are pretty high up. So his horizon line is like right about there. which can be a problem, but that's okay. We don't have to be perfect with the horizon line because if we wanted everything to be in perspective, we would need to maybe bring him down like right about there. And that's not too bad actually, but I'm going to cheat and just go up a little bit higher. And there we go. Just so that everything looks like it's in perspective. If things are not in perspective, they don't look natural, like if I were to like move them up here, that doesn't look that good. So I'll keep them right about there. And I just noticed that there is this section here that didn't get masked out. So I'm going to click on the layer mask, fill with black. Black is my foreground color, Alt backspace, Option delete on the Mac. So for now, this is going to be okay. Maybe I'll get them closer. And at this point, all I'm really doing is just putting everything together. I'm not going to worry about details. I don't worry about details to the very end because what if I'm unhappy with something? I don't want to spend time fine-tuning small things that are not even going to matter at the end. Cool. Santa is magical. That is why I completely agree, Kane Lira. That's why Adobe did not, or Photoshop did not recognize Santa. Cool. Don from Florida. Good to see you, Don. By the way, yeah, where are you guys tuning in from? I'm now living in Kansas City, Missouri, so that's where I'm streaming from today. Okay, so what do we do next? Let's keep working on this stage. So I found this image on Adobe Stock that I think is going to make the bottom part of the stage look better. So like this right here, right? This piece of furniture, whatever that was. I'm just going to place this here at the bottom like so. And then I'm going to hold Alt on Windows, Option on Mac, and drag to duplicate that. And then I'm going to zoom in with the Move tool, kind of get it to align, use the arrow keys. And that aligns pretty good. But then there's a seam, so you can create a layer mask with the brush tool. You can paint with black to hide, and then just kind of remove the seam. It's not going to be perfect, but that's okay. It's not, you don't have to be perfect. There we go. Then we'll do one more. Alt, drag, and try to match it as best as possible. That looks pretty good. And I'm going to hold Shift, click on the bottom piece of wood here, and then press Control G, Command G on the Mac to put that into a group. And then I'll press Control T to transform and drag it so that it, drag a corner handle so that it fills the entire image. Now, this wouldn't look realistic, right? Because the lines are going straight up. And if you're looking at the image, like if those lines were real, they wouldn't go straight up like that. They would be bent in an angle. So I'm going to try to replicate that. I'm going to go into Edit, Transform, and choose Perspective. And I'm just going to bring these lines in a little bit like that. Then go into Edit, Transform, and Scale. And I'm going to scale this out so that it fills in the holes. And I think this looks a little better. It looks a little more realistic. And maybe I was a little heavy-handed. Maybe I'm not so happy with it. Maybe I can, just not be so heavy-handed. There we go. Not as extreme. And I think that looks much, much better. Also, something I like doing when I'm working on things like this, I like to start bringing in the shadows that I know are going to be there later on. So I'm just going to right-click to the side of the layer here, or the group. It brings up the layer style window. And I can just I'm going to go, just so that you guys can see, I'm going to go to the FX icon and reset it to the default list so that everything's default. And I'm just going to click on Gradient Overlay. And on the overlay, I'm going to go into Basics and choose this one that's black to transparent. And then set it to like, I don't know, let's see, 90, actually 0. 0 is probably 0. Actually, no, 90 was, yeah, 90 is what I want. Then click and drag over the image like so. Just so that we can hit the shadow, maybe bring in the scale a little bit and drag it down and just adjust it accordingly. And then change the blend mode to multiply. And to be quite honest, I don't like shadows being completely black. So usually what I would do in this case is just click on the like a color here and then, try to make it like a dark red or dark brown. That will give me a more realistic result. And then there we go at 85 or so, whatever works best, I'll press OK. And there we go. Now the shadow is on the group and it covers all the panels there. And it's looking fantastic. I think, you know what? I'm unhappy with how things are. I think I need to scale the background up. So what I'm going to do is press Control T to transform and just scale everything. I think it'll look better if it's just a little bit larger. And I think The Santa and the little boy need to be larger as well. I'm going to drag the pivot point. The reference point is what the technical term is. I like calling it the pivot point. It makes more sense in my head. But you can enable it by clicking this checkbox. It used to be on by default, but Adobe in their infinite wisdom decided to turn it off a couple of versions ago. So now you have to turn it on, but I recommend you turn it on. You can drag. Since I already placed these characters in the scene where I thought they would be in perspective and the vanishing point is like right about here, I can just place this more or less where the horizon line is, hold Alt and Shift, which is Shift and Option on a Mac, and then scale and perspective. See that? See how it scales in perspective, excuse me. And we don't have to be perfect. I can cheat. I can maybe move him up a little bit and move him down. Maybe Santa might be a little too small. You could also click on these icons here. So I'll click on the bottom one so it scales from the bottom center and then make them a little taller. We don't have to get perspective 100% right. As long as we're in the ballpark, things are going to look okay. Cool. It says on the somebody said in the comment, Aaron Nace says fantastic all the time. Oh my God. Now that's gonna be in my head. I'm gonna have to text Aaron and tell him to stop saying fantastic. I was just texting that guy a couple days ago. He's doing good. He's in North Carolina right now, I believe. Anyway, so what is next? Let me show you another new feature. If you go into edit and choose generative workspace, you can generate new images. So you can see how I was working with some reindeer here in the what the prompt was: Christmas reindeer from behind looking back in a dark room with rim lighting, because I wanted to make it seem like they were in the front row, watching this concert. When you click on generate, oh, by the way, I'm using the 16:9 aspect ratio because that's the aspect ratio of my image and the photo content type. So when you go into effect, you can click on photo to make sure that what it generates looks more like a photo rather than an illustration. You can click on generate, and then you're going to get some results. I don't know if they'll be any better than the ones I had before that I generated before the stream started, but in just a few seconds, we're going to see the generations, and I'll try to use one of the new ones. So we use something that I created with you guys. That one could work. Yeah, these could work. This one could definitely work. Yeah, I will use this one. So what I'll do now is click on Add To, and then choose Adobe Live Christmas. And by the way, I'm used to using PSBs, not a PSD, in the professional movie posters that I create. A PSD wouldn't work. They have a file size limit of 2 gigabytes, I think it is. So PSBs don't have that limitation, and a lot of the files that I work on are like 8 to 10 gigabytes. So I usually just work with PSBs, but in most cases, PSDs are going to be fine. Choose as separate layers and click add. And this is going to add this image to our working composite. And what you can do now is I'm going to just rasterize the image. I don't need to keep it as a generative layer. I'll convert it into a smart object. I'll remove the background. We'll see what that looks like. Pretty good. Control T to transform. Click on this icon to flip horizontally, and then I can place them right about here. Look, it's so funny. It kept the little bokeh. If you hold Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac, and click on the layer mask thumbnail, you'll see what that looks like. And what I'm going to do here is just with the brush tool, just paint with black. There we go. And Alt on Windows, Option on the Mac again, and click, and then it brings that back. And I'm going to create a new layer, clip it to the layer below. A lot of ways of clipping layers. You can hold Alt or Option in between the two layers, or press Control Alt G to clip it to the layer below. And by the way, actually, I made a mistake. I should have added the layer mask first inside of the smart object. So I'll show you why. So I'm going to just do the remove background thing here. And then I'm going to paint with black here just to get rid of that. And now that we're here, I'm just going to give it a little more detail, and you'll see why I'm doing this. This is probably as much detail as I need. I don't have to be too precise. And actually, this is a weird generation thing. So it'll look better if I just get rid of it. Because since this element is in the foreground, it's going to be really, really blurry. It's also going to be dark, so I don't need to be too precise. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to quickly just, mask these areas out so that I don't have to worry about it later. And hopefully we don't have to think about it anymore. here's the trick. You click once, hold shift, click again. Photoshop draws a straight line in between 2 points. And that's what I like to do sometimes. I want to go quickly and don't really care too much about precision. And there we go. This should work, because you'll see in a moment, we're just going to blur it. And yeah, this looks pretty good. Save it. So the layer mask being in there allows me to now take this smart object, go into filter, blur, Gaussian blur, and I can just blur it, to try to create some like depth of field here in this image. Control T to transform, scale it up. So now we have this guy watching the show. And this layer that I created just a moment ago, what I can now do is paint with black. You can paint with black, but then bring down the opacity and flow and paint. Or if you have a Wacom tablet, you can use that. Just enable the flow and opacity, pressure sensitivity. Make sure that you're working with a soft brush. And what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to paint in the shadows here, because he wouldn't be lit from the back. I mainly want just the specular, or not the specular highlights, the rim lighting is really what I want. So I can just paint this in like so. There we go. So that's basically my shadow there, and this will be good for now. And by the way, if I want to increase the blur, I can, and the shadows will stay because that's on a new layer. Cool. Let me see if there are any questions. Awesome. Yeah, no questions. People are asking if this is going to be recorded. Yes, this is being recorded. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's the same link. When it's done, it'll just be a regular YouTube video you can go and watch. Cool. So at this point, I'm very happy with what I have. This is more or less the layout that I'm going to want. I could definitely keep adding more stuff. We don't have a lot of time to keep adding more stuff, but this is good enough. We have the little boy pointing at Santa, and we'll probably put him in the center there. I think that's good. And then Santa's here, and then we have this foreground element. Maybe we can add other foreground elements later if we have time. But usually what I like to do is, once I have everything set up, like I do here, I like to just stay organized, right? So we have the stage here, or the background. So I'm just going to call this group background, call it BG. I can delete this background layer because we don't need it. I'm going to put the little boy into a group, and I'll just call this group boy. And then we have Santa. By the way, here's a tip for you. When you're naming layers, if you press the tab key, you have to actually be editing the layer name. If you press the tab key, it goes to the next layer, and you can continue editing. So you don't have to click. You can hold Shift Tab to go up. So now see how it says generated image? I can just type in reindeer, or however you spell it, and then put that into a group. And I should have called this one reindeer, or reindeer. I think I got it right the second time. We don't need these lines, but there we go. Usually when I'm doing like real jobs, I like to color code my layers, just because it's easier for me to figure out, like, if I need the boy, I know it's the blue one, and I know Santa is the red one, and I know the foreground elements are, seafoam green. Seafoam green, is that what it's called? Yeah, seafoam, or whatever it is. So I like to just, it makes it easy for me to see, and then when I expand, I can see the colors there, and I know what, more or less what layer I'm working on. Something else that I would recommend doing is, to make this realistic, we really want to keep that depth of field of the image, like the blurriness. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to press Control Alt Shift E, and I'm just going to call this layer blur, and I'm going to just convert it into a smart object. Then I'm going to go into filter, camera raw filter, and what I'm going to do here, it appear on my second window. Sorry, let me bring this over if I can. It's not letting me. I'm not really sure why it's not letting me bring it over to you guys. That is so weird. Let me try that again. Filter, camera raw filter. This is so unusual. I'm wondering if this is like a beta issue, that it's not letting me move the window. Oh, there we go. Finally, let me move the window. Great. So there we go. Camera raw filter. What I'm going to do here is I'm just going to click on the lens blur, which the lens blur just creates a synthetic depth map to create depth in the image, and then it applies the blur. And you can use, the visualized depth to see what's blurry, what's not, what's in focus, or you can drag this. If you drag this to the left, the things closer to you are in focus, and they gradually get more blurry, and you can, determine the how gradual that blur becomes, right? And in this case, I don't know, maybe something like this, and adjust the blur, and then just pick the bokeh that better will work for your image. Something like this. So we'll just make a very shallow depth of field, and actually maybe we even blur the foreground a little bit too, so that the focus is like really right here. Actually, never mind. I think this is good. I'll press OK. We can always change our mind, right? So there we go. So then if I want to change my mind, I can come back and just replace the image inside of here. For example, if I come in here and decide that I want to remove the gradient overlay, obviously that changes the image. I can then do a copy merge, go inside of here, and then paste that copy merge in there, close it, and the blur will apply. So that's why we did it this way. So there we go. We have our boy, our Santa, and our reindeer. Now, another of the things that I like to do is when I'm working like really early on, I want to start thinking about how the image is going to look and feel when I'm done before doing all the details. So what I like to do is press Control Alt Shift E, and then I just call this layer final. I'll just call it final, and then probably change the color since it's a different color or different, it's outside of that group. We'll make it yellow, convert it to a smart object, and make it yellow. Then I like to go into Filter, Camera, Raw, Filter. And from here, I like to start doing like all the final effects, right? Just to get an idea of what things are going to look like. So I'll bring down the highlight so I can get more detail on there. Maybe something like that. Bring out the, brighten the shadows to get more detail in the shadows. And go to color, increase the vibrance, which increases saturation on the image. Not across the board. It protects skin tones and already saturated pixels, unlike saturation where it just bumps the saturation of everything. Then I'm going to go into effects, increase the texture just to make the details pop a little more. Clarity, a vignette just to darken the edges, and a little bit of grain. I like adding grain to my composites because it feels too smooth, too digital when everything is just, blurred. So I like to just start adding grain just to make it seem more like an actual photo. It makes it more realistic. It brings everything together, more cohesive. And also, now that we're here, I'm going to go and add a color grade. I'm going to add a global color grade in this case. I'm just going to go and just choose something like yellow, something warm like that. And I changed my mind. I'm also going to add something in the highlights, and I'll do the same. I'll just add something warm here in the highlights just to bring it all together. Something like that. And this is obviously not my final result, but it's going to give me a good idea of where the image is going, right? I mean, this is where I was, this is where I am, and it's already starting to look more finished, even though I really haven't done anything. I'm just, putting it all together, and then I focus on the details, and then that's when it really comes together. There's a question in the chat about perspective. Basically, you can summarize the question by saying if you have two figures of different sizes, like one is really big, one is really small, like a child and an adult, how do you change the perspective for them to match? With human beings or organic objects, it's really difficult to change the perspective. So you have to cheat. Maybe you can distort it a certain way so that, the perspective mismatch is not as obvious, or you can, a lot of the times, what I'll do is I'll like, hide, whoops. I'll hide, like the feet or something so that it conceals the mismatch. But there's not much you can do really if it's a really big mismatch. It's just very difficult to get it to work. But anyway, cool. So I just leave this off, and this is usually where I'm going to end up. And I leave this off, and then as I work, I'll keep replacing the contents so that it updates, and it just I have an idea of what's going on, right? So why don't we work on the little boy here? So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to just zoom in, and I think in this case, it'll be better if we work in the actual image here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and I'm going to choose embed linked. You see the little cloud icon here? This is a Creative Cloud asset, and I just want to embed it into my image. Embed linked. Boom, there it is. When I double click on it, you'll see it here. By the way, if I create a new layer and close it and then save, Photoshop is going to ask me to save it somewhere else. I really, really don't like that because, the embedded image was a JPEG, and it's just, I don't know. I just wish it just wouldn't do that. What I have to do now is go to my desktop, save the PSD, click on save, press OK, but it doesn't, it's here. See how when I open it again, it's the JPEG. It's not the same one. So what I have to do now is right click and do a replace contents, and then I gotta go to my desktop. I think that's where I saved it. I think this is the PSD. Click on replace, and now when I opened it, there it is. It's the one with the new layer. So it's just something weird, but it is what it is. Anyway, so now I have this image here, and I'm gonna click on the remove background button here. And actually, as we discussed earlier, the object selection tool gives you a better result now. So I'm going to click on entire person, click on apply, and then click on the layer mask icon. There it is. And it made that same mistake again. For some reason, it thinks that's part of the little boy. I'm not sure why. But anyway, so here we are. The selection is not perfect. Usually when I'm working with these kinds of images, what I'll do is I'll just make a gray background so that I can see what's going on. And the first thing that I usually do is just double click on the layer or the layer mask to bring up this view. I usually go into the black and white view, and I just smooth the image so that I can see the edges. I want smoother edges, contrast, and shift the edge in a little bit like so, and press OK. In some other cases, I might go into filter, other, minimum, and then just bring it in like a pixel or two just to completely get rid of any halos or imperfections. So I'll press OK. So we can work with this. So let's start on the easy part first. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint with black here, like so. And I'm just going to paint with white. And I haven't decided yet what I'm going to do here because I don't like the outfit that he's wearing. But that's okay. We can use Generative Fill for that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to bring up the elements that I really want to see. And I know the edges are not perfect. I'm not worried about that right now. I just want to make sure that we have a good selection. All right, cool. So at this point, I have to make a decision, right? Like, what am I going to do with this outfit? I really don't like it. So we can do a couple things, right? We can just go into the selection brush tool, and we can just carefully decide what we're going to keep. And I'm going to paint really, really fast and loose here. So I'm thinking I'm going to give him a suit because this is a concert. So I don't know. I'm thinking a little bit of like a, like a suit, like, I don't know, Michael Bublé would wear at a concert, like a Johnny Cash kind of thing. So we'll see. We'll see if this works. This is basically what I did in the other image. I don't want his hand to be regenerated, so I'm gonna just paint that back in. I'll zoom in here, and I also want to keep the microphone. I don't want the microphone to be affected. Now I have to hold Alt on Windows, which is option on the Mac, and I'll paint away. I just want the edges. I don't want to get the white shirt because I want the white shirt to be regenerated. So I'm just going to go, it's probably like the most careful I'm going to be in the entire video. And I don't want that highlight there. There we go. I think this will be good. We'll see what we get. Cool. So now that I have my selection active, I'm just going to go into Generative Fill, and I'm just going to type in like black suit with a red tie, and we'll see what comes up. Hopefully we get something that we can use. Cool. This definitely did not work the way that I intended. So we're gonna have to try again. And if it doesn't work, we'll keep trying. Um, Black suit and red tie. And actually, if this doesn't work, I have another thing I'm gonna try. Okay. The thing that I'm gonna try is I think this gray layer is freaking it out. So I'm just gonna do it without that. Um, Black suit with red tie. I have a feeling that gray background fill was freaking it out. So we'll see. All right, much better. Yeah, that's what it was. So, I'm not 100% happy with these guys, so I'll just do another generation and hopefully we get something better. All right, let's see what we got here. I think we can work with, see, like this is not bad. I have obviously I don't want them in shorts, but I think we can make this one work. So one of the things that I like to do is just convert this into a smart object, and then I can go into filter, liquefy, and it appeared on this side, but that's okay. I can bring it over and I'll select layer 0 from show backdrop and use the opacity so I can really see, his original body. And I can sort of, move the pixels here so that they match his original body better. That way it doesn't look so unrealistic. And I'm going quickly here, of course, but usually this is what I do. I just try to match this as best as I can. I don't want to lose the contour of his body. And we're going to call this good, even though I know it's not 100%, but we're going to call that good. And then we can, work on his arm or whatever. What I'll do next is just work on his pants. Just come down here and then just type in black pants. Somebody who is that? Viola said they like the shorts. Yeah, if this doesn't work, I may have to keep the shorts. Okay, we'll call this good. I think we can work with this. It's not perfect, but I think we can work with it. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put all this into a group. And you know what? Here, I have an idea. I'm just going to press Control J to duplicate everything and then press Control E to merge it all. And what I can now do is go into filter, liquefy once again. And I'm not liking his arm. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to shape the arm just by eyeballing it. I'm just going to shape it as best as I can. Oops, I don't want to. Oh my God, I just realized the tie looks terrible. I'm going to have to fix the tie. All right. So I'll do, this is what I'm going to do. I'm just going to start painting from here and here, like so. And maybe if I want that to show through, I'll hold Alt and paint. And I'll just type in red tie and we'll see what comes up. But for the purposes of time, I'm gonna move it. It just requires a little bit more fine tuning, but that's okay. I think we can live with this. Okay, that one's gonna have to work. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna just merge these two, Control E, put that in here, and I'm gonna take this original image and bring it to the top. Why am I bringing this to the top? Because I'm going to then make sure that the details that I want showing through do show through, like the microphone. So I'm just gonna delete this layer, hold Alt and Windows Option in the Mac and click to create a black mask, and then I can paint with white to, bring back the details that I really do want to keep, like his hands and all of that. His hand is there, and I know it's not perfect, but that's okay. We're gonna make this work. Cool. There we go. And now I'm painting with black to hide. I'm just going quickly, but this should work. It looks like the hand was like not matching at all. So I'm going to cheat, guys, because we don't have a lot of time. I'm just going to go into the clone stamp tool, hold Alt and Windows option on the Mac and click on that edge. And I'm just going to paint that in. And I'm going to paint more than what I need. I definitely need to cheat here. And then hold Alt and Windows option in the Mac and hide everything and paint with white to reveal it again. And it's not matching perfectly, so I'm going to use the arrow keys to nudge it a bit. And there we go. I'm going to come back to this just because I don't want to spend a whole lot of time. I'm thinking about, you know what? I'm thinking about fixing it hopefully with like one generation. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint over this area here. And hopefully this generation works and it fixes everything for me. We'll see. Come on, Generative Fill, fix everything for me. Okay, didn't do that bad of a job. Actually, you know what? I think the issue will be the entire arm. There we go. Click on generate. And now you can see why this takes like 12 to 18 hours to do if you're really trying to make something that looks realistic. There we go. This is not terrible. All right, we're going to have to live with this. I'm just going to close it. Yeah, close it for now. Click on yes. And there we go. Now we have the little boy with Santa. Oh, wait, there's one thing that I wanted to fix. I think his face was also affected by that generation. So I think, yeah. So I think I can come in here and paint with white to reveal his original face. And I like that much better than the generated image. So that's much, much better. Cool. We're going to call this good. All right. Let me look at the time. All right. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to do a remove background here. I'm going to remove the background. We got the little guy here pointing at Santa. We can then come in here and then just fix this result by increasing the smoothness, the contrast, shifting the edge a little bit. And then I can come in here and paint with white to fix these imperfections. And we're going to have to call this good. Fantastic. Cool. A couple other things that you can do here is I really wanted to show this, but we don't have a lot of time, so I'm just going to have to do it super, super fast. So to fix areas like this, we need good edges. And how do we create good edges? With a brush, right? So you can create a new brush by, doing something that's like 1080. 1080 by 1080, press OK, and then come in here and choose the curvature pen tool would work, I guess. Just do something like this. And this is going to be a fur brush. I think you guys could probably tell where I'm going with this. Maybe something like that. And maybe make it black. And you know what? I just thought about something. Maybe delete this point. And there we go. This is going to be my fur brush. I think this will work. I'm going to now go into, you know what? It's probably too tall. That should work. So now I'm going to go into edit, define brush preset. And this is my sampled brush right here. I can come back in here. I'll create a new layer on top of everything so that we can see what's going on. I'll make it white. And then on that preset, I can paint with black. And that does not look like fur or the, Santa outfit. What we can do is click on this icon and then go into brush tip and increase the spacing, the shape dynamics, size jitter, so that they're all different sizes. Adjust the scattering so we have, just they're scattered, they're not all facing the same way. And under shape dynamics, I'm going to also adjust the angle a little bit and probably increase the count so that we have more. So when I paint, now I get that. And I think the size jitter might be a little too much. Rotate the angle more, increase the count even more. Yeah, and I think this is going to work. So when I paint, oh yeah, that's going to look so good. So when I paint on the Santa mask now here, we're going to get a better result. And actually what I'm going to do here is going to filter other minimum and do maybe like 2 pixels to like really come in there, reduce my brush size, rotate it by using the arrow keys on the keyboard. And then with white, I'm sorry, with, I'm going to paint with white here and try to get better edges as best as I can. There we go. And I'm just rotating the brush with the arrow keys as I paint. And this is the secret to getting good edges. Just create a brush, find a brush that paints those details in for you right there. Then I can create a new layer, flip it to the layer below. And actually what I'll do in case I need this again, I'm just going to create a new brush preset from that, and I'll just press OK, and that way it's saved. What I'm going to do now is simply paint with white on here. That's black. Paint with white so that, you know, those edges kind of blend in and we don't see any of that blue. And how much time do we have? Okay, cool. I'm not going to do the entire image, but as you can see, this looks much better already than just that. And you would just repeat that on all the areas that you need to make sure that you get those nice edges. But like I said, we don't have time to do them all. And oops, sorry about that. We don't have time to do them all in this stream. So, you know, this is all you would do. And then make sure you get rid of the blue there because the blue wouldn't necessarily work. And again, you can clip a new layer, select the soft brush, and paint with that color in there, and then hide that blue. And now we have something that works. There we go. And obviously, this probably would look better if we added some sparkles. So I can bring this image on top of here. We can license it, of course. I can click on that license icon, press OK to confirm. Press Control T to transform, make it larger so that it covers the entire image. Here's another shortcut for you. Oh, by the way, see how there's that icon here? It kind of lost the connection to this image. I can just drag it back in there. I could have done the find, you know, link library option, but it's much faster to do this. Control right bracket key to move a layer up the layer stack. So moving it all the way to the top, actually underneath that final. Change the blending mode to screen. And what I'm going to do, let's see, we got a few minutes. I'm just going to do this super, super quick. I'm just going to create a curves adjustment layer, flip it to the layer below, and then add contrast to the little boy. He doesn't really match the scene that much. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cheat here. I'm going to do a lot of cheating. I'm going to create a new layer and place him under him. With the brush tool, I'm just going to paint with brown here, and I'm gonna make my brush larger and paint, and that'll be multiply. That'll be the shadow, of course, and bring that down. Probably the ugliest shadow I made in my life, but it's okay. We have like 2 minutes, and I will add another one under Santa. Change the blending mode to multiply, and bring down the opacity. The last thing that I'll do is I want the center, like them, to be the focus. So what I'll do is above the background, I'm going to select like the yellow, like that one, and then just paint and change the blending mode to like soft light or maybe overlay. Soft light works. Yeah. And then I can go into image, adjustment, levels, and then maybe make it brighter. Yeah, I think that'll work. So now that I have all of this, I can press Control A, Control Shift C to copy merge everything, go into this final file I made earlier and paste. Oops, my keyboard shortcut didn't work, so I'll try that one more time. Just edit copy merge is really what I wanted. Actually, I gotta be on a layer that's not hidden. Edit copy merge. That's why it didn't work earlier. And go into here, paste, close, save, and enable it. And this is my result. All right, everybody. Well, thank you so much for joining me. I know that was fast. This was recorded, so you can always come back and watch it. I hope that you enjoyed all the tips. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll be back again tomorrow, so make sure you check out the schedule for all the wonderful Christmas and holiday streams. Thank you so much. I am Jesús Ramirez, and I look forward to seeing you again very soon. Happy holidays.